Hi guys, Grudy's Race and Rest Day. Okay, clutch thrust bearing, throw out bearing, whichever you'd like to call it. This is today's topic. Okay, here we have Tilton. Supposed to be for E46, purchased from Interstate. I think the gentleman's name's Jack from Earls, Tilton dealer in Australia. Now, see that little step? So the inside's 40mm. Goes over the E46, E39 large spline spigot where it's supposed to sit over the top of the spline. Now, this one has this little step. Now that little step stops us doing anything we want. Now the reason for the little step is the inside diameter of this bearing. So is a 40mm bearing. Now, got to take this into note. That's a 44mm radius. Now, let's go over here to explain a little. 44mm sits on the edge here, nicely. Alright? And on the other clutch, the fingers are a tad longer again. So 44 would sit right on the edge. And it'll work quite well. These fingers actually come down as the pressure comes onto the pressure plate, so they sit in a little bit more. Now, the closer to here you've got your radius of your thrust bearing, the more leverage you've got over your heavy duty clutch. And depending on the ratio of the clutch pressure plate itself, depends on what you've got. So I have to run a 54, which will actually run further out here. We got that? Yeah, there, like that. Right, and I'll show you why. So, due to the fact the hole is actually 40mm, the centre of this 44 bearing, which would be really good for nice feeling of the clutch, so not a heavy clutch, is actually the size that I need for the centre. So this here is a conversion hub that I can buy, and I use them on a few different ones. Now this has got a 38mm hole. You should be able to see that. This will suit get drag and will suit very early 420G with a small spline, which is the standard 10 spline. Now this won't take a 40mm ID, 44mm thrust bearing. But this one will take a, what is it, it's 45 by 54. And that's what I'm going to have to use on these clutches. So now, due to the fact my stack height actually needs to be 30, now I'm going to machine the centre out of one of these. So we're taking this one to 40. At the moment we're actually at about 39 point, I tested it when I measured it before, about 39.3, and I'll take that to 40.1, 40.12, 15. And then what I will do is I'll flip it around, and then once I've flipped it around in the lathe, because this is my number 2, I will then machine this down. So I will want about 15, we're looking for 30, so we will take about, that's about 5mm thick, that piece. We will take it down to about the 10 mark. Maybe go a little bit more just to give me a tad more. I can pick it up with leverage on the brass pin. So we'll leave that there, and I'll show you the finished product in a minute. Mind the noise, I thought I'd show you what I'm up against when I'm doing this stuff. A little bit of fluid to make it cut a little bit nicer. This is 1913 Seneca Falls. It's a 100-year-old lathe that I use. Might not be perfect, but Does its job. It still spins reasonably true, which is the hardest part. Well, we're not far off. Over and over, cut, and because I've only got small internals, I can't go too much, otherwise they vibrate and they create a bit of a chatty surface. Right, I'll finish this off. Right, on the other side, I'll show you in a minute. An eternity later. Right, I've got this cut. 45mm will go on. She might be a little bit on the tight side. So one thing you've got to remember when machining stuff, especially if you're just starting out, that you can't put it back once you remove it. You can pin punch it and glue shit, but if this is hot, it's actually going to be bigger because it will actually grow. So if this is 60 or 80 degrees to touch, that'll be microns bigger than if it's standard size. Right, hold on, I'll get it out. Now, there we go. That's actually right, and that will fit in heaps better. It's about 8mm off the fork location point. I might actually throw this into my 4-jaw and pull a little bit more weight off it. I don't know yet, we'll see. But yeah, that's the custom throw-out bearing carrier that'll go in this, and we'll sit up in here nice and neat. And not much light, I know, but yeah, sits up in here on the end of the fork.